welcome. You're watching the NewsHour Agenda. I'm Padmaja Joshi. Political tensions that have been simmering in West Bengal ever since the ghastly murders in Rampur Hat and Birbhum today boiled over into the State Assembly as well. As the session started, BJP legislators demanded that Mamata Banerjee make a statement on what happened in Birbhum, when 9 people, including 7 who were from a family, were beaten and then burned alive. Soon after, while the BJP MLAs were staging a protest, they trooped into the well and claimed that they were manhandled by members of the Trinamool Congress. Sloganeering soon turned into an altercation. An altercation turned into a free-for-all, where several MLAs were left injured. On your screens, in fact, you can see Shehzad Poonawalla, MLA of the TMC, jostling with those purportedly from the BJP. In fact, BJP's Amit Malviya put out this video alleging that several MLAs of his party, including Chief Whip Manoj Tigga, were injured in the fracas. Some even had their clothes torn. However, in another video that was posted by BJP's Priyanka Tibrewal, you can see another MLA of the party, Narhari Mahato, pinned to the ground, pulled by the collar, pushed and jostled with. Both parties are now accusing each other of starting and planning the ruckus. Leader of opposition in the state, Suvendu Adhikari, alleged that members of the BJP were not just beaten up inside the house, but that women MLAs like Chandana Bauri were attacked and that the police in plain clothes was brought in for that job.
सुवेंदु अधिकारी नीचे मेरा सुवेंदु अधिकारी नीचे मेरा सुवेंदु अधिकारी नीचे मेरा खुशी मेरे আমরা ওই যে আমাদের সিকিউরিটিদের মারছিল তাদের ঠেকাতে গিয়েছিলাম শুভেন্দু অধিকারী নিজে আমাকে ঘুষি মেরেছে
আজকে কিছু কলকাতা পুলিশের লোককে সিভিল ড্রেসে ভিতরে আনা হয়েছে প্রি প্ল্যান আজকে প্রমাণ হয়ে গেল যে বিধানসভার ভিতরেও বিরোধীদের কণ্ঠস্বর রুদ্ধ এবং বিধায়করা কেউ নিরাপদ নয় এই বিধায়কদের নয় তাদের সদস্যপদ ত্যাগ করতে হবে নয় তোলামূল পার্টিতে নাম লিখাতে হবে নইলে হাউসে এসে তার স্বাভাবিক কাজ করার অধিকারটুকুও পাবে না এর থেকে নিন্দা আর কিছু হতে পারে না আমাদের যারা আহত হয়েছে তাদেরকে মেডিকেল করব এবং প্রয়োজনে অধ্যক্ষের সুবিচার না পেলে আমরা আদালতেরও আশ্রয় নেওয়ার চেষ্টা করব আইন মেনে
पश्चिम बंगाल में विधानसभा कक्ष में जो बीजेपी विधायकों ऊपर जो हमला हुआ है इसके लिए हम लोग प्रतिवाद आवाज उठा रहे हैं कि ऐसा पश्चिम बंगाल के इतिहास में ममता बनर्जी किया था विधानसभा में खुद किया था भांगचूर किया था अभी वो हमारे बीजेपी विधायक को अपोजिशन वाले के ऊपर हाथ उठा रहे हैं खुद स्पीकर भी बोल रहे हैं कि बीजेपी विधायक को मारो पीटो ऐसा पश्चिम बंगाल में गणतंत्र नहीं है इसलिए हम लोग ये सब कर रहे हैं ममता बनर्जी के पश्चिम बंगाल में कोई लॉ एंड ऑर्डर नहीं है खुद उनका हिटलरी का शासन चल रहा है जो मन में होता है ऐसे ही होता है
बीजेपी uncivilized uncultured and since Trinamool is in rule we cannot go and start kick fighting on roads like so naturally they one-sided attacked our MLAs and their main target was to snatch the baton from the marshal.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
Joining us now on the debate, Shehzad Poonawalla, national spokesperson of the BJP, Dr. Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar, MP of the Lok Sabha of the Trinamool Congress. I'll start with you, Shehzad Poonawalla. TMC is saying that this was a free-for-all, even their members got injured. There are pictures that they are showing, MLAs with their noses bleeding, saying that you trooped in, you attacked them, they retaliated.
You know, unfortunately, Padmaja, West Bengal was the land where the mind was supposed to be free and head to be held high. In that land today, under Mamata Banerjee, you are seeing the complete institutionalization of political violence and politicization of every institution. And whether it is a Birbhum where 8 innocent people are massacred and there is an entire attempt to cover it up by the TMC functionaries, Mamata Banerjee shows a Nirmamta chehra when she compares it with a sneeze. Whether it is the history of violence right from 2011, 2013, 2021, the post-poll violence on which the High Court has also made observations, 2018 Panchayati polls, or today what you saw in the assembly, even MLAs are not safe. 7 of our MLAs of the BJP, including women, are in hospital as we speak. This is the level of political violence that has now become a norm, a culture, and therefore I say what we have in West Bengal is TMC, Talibani, Tanashahi mindset and culture. And then there is the BJP, which is fighting this battle, trying to raise its voice in the assembly. But we see that a complete attempt is made to suppress the voice of democracy and the people. We saw what has happened in the assembly. They have suspended the chief whip. They've suspended the leader of opposition. What is it that they want to hide in the Birbhum massacre? I perhaps think it is about the fact that one of their leaders said that it was a television set that exploded. Another MLA, their set of leaders, was defending the prime accused, Mr. Anarul Hassan, who's now been arrested after Mamata Banerjee gave directions to her police to arrest them. Even the Congress, even the Calcutta High Court has no faith on the police and the SIT and the institutions of the TMC government. In fact, I would also tell you that there were civil dressed, clothed people inside the assembly who were assaulting the leaders of opposition. And this was done by the TMC.
Let's unpack this one by one. Raise your voice, get thrashed. Kakoli Ghosh Dastidar. And all they wanted was a statement by the Chief Minister on the murder of 9 people. Because one more, Zarina Bibi, passed away this evening. That deserves a statement. Why the violence?
Throughout the country, terror is being unleashed by the BJP workers. And they are doing the same thing, trying to do terror on the streets of West Bengal, in the villages of West Bengal, and today they carried it too far. They took it inside the assembly. The parliamentary system does not work like this. They have to be civil and they have to discuss. They can debate on the floor of the house, they can demand a debate and explanation, but they can't go beating up the marshals, they can't go and beat up these secretary staff. The secretariat sit there writing down the notes. The women workers of the Vidhan Sabha were beaten up. And then to top it all, the Chinsura MLA of our party, Ashit Majumdar, had his nose broken and bleeding. He had to be stitched and hospitalized. So the marshals tried to prevent this from happening and they were thrown out. So they cannot do it. The leader of the party, their leader of opposition there, Mr. Suvendu Adhikari himself started beating up our MLAs. It is shameful that they have degraded themselves and the institution of.
So you're saying that Suvendu Adhikari came in and he started attacking the marshals, which is where retaliatory action took place. Are you though admitting that your MLAs were also involved in violence? Because you've got images. You've got images of Shaukat Mohalla.
When they were beating up, they were trying to protect themselves.
They were trying to
protect themselves. They were trying to protect the women MLAs.
Okay, so Shaukat Mohalla, who can be seen in that image, is protecting the women marshals.
Of the streets, what they're doing every day, too much.
Okay, so the street behavior that the BJP brought into the assembly.
Yes.
MLAs of the TMC were only acting in one, self-defense and protecting the marshals. Shehzad Poonawalla.
You saw a visual of how a TMC MLA was actually pinning down Mr. Mahato. It is right there on the screen, and after that also they want to lie. And I want to ask Kakoli Dastidar that what about the 150 bombs that were seized in Margram? What about the weapons that were seized in Kandi? This is all in West Bengal. What about the weapons seized in Noida? What about the bombs that were seized in Raghunathganj? What about the bombs that were seized in Hariyarpara? What about the bombs that were seized in Keshpur? What about the bombs that were seized in Malda? Who's controlling law and order? When there were Kolkata municipal polls, there were crude bombs that were used. Who is controlling law and order? The post-poll violence took place under your watch, and your government was castigated by the Calcutta High Court, which said that it is not the rule of law, but the law of the ruler. Who was responsible for that? It was you again. And today you come here and say that it was the BJP MLAs. The BJP MLAs and the BJP workers have been on the receiving end. 300 BJP workers have died, including Mr. Mahato, including Mr. Mr. Dulal Kumar, including Avijit Sarkar. And on the death of Avijit Sarkar, what did Mamata Banerjee say? She compared his dead body to that of a dog's carcass, the same way she compared the death of 9 people to the sneezing incident. There were hoardings that were put up by your Karyakartas welcoming Mamata Banerjee when she went to Birbhum. Was it a Jashna or was it a Matam? And was it a condolence? And I want to ask you, madam, that tell me how many people were killed in any other part of the country after any kind of election. Today you see 50 people who are involved in crimes and mafia have surrendered in Uttar Pradesh, but 50 bombs are discovered in places in West Bengal under your watch. In fact, there was a letter that was broken, internal note that was broken by Times Now, which showed how the West Bengal police was then given directions that recover all the crude bombs and all the weapons that were there in Birbhum district. Why was this not done before that?
Kakoli Ghosh Dasidar, Narhari Mahato, and look at the image on the screen. An MLA of the BJP is basically kicked to the ground. You may have self-defense, but where does physical violence? And let me remind you again that this shoe is on the other foot. When it happened inside the Rajya Sabha earlier, you said we are protesting, it is our democratic right. Your members of parliament were suspended for this kind of behavior. You called it a murder of democracy. They protested outside the Gandhi statue, in front of the Gandhi statue. You were there, ma'am. And today you're saying this is how it happens. You ask for a statement, we are going to throw you out.
They did not go and beat up the marshals or the staff of the secretariat.
Actually, that is not true, madam. The lady marshal has submitted a written complaint to the watch and ward staff of the Rajya Sabha. In writing, the lady marshal actually gave a written complaint. The incident report of that day.
Yes, of course. You can get everything done. When you are in power, you can get... When you are in power, you can get everything done. Okay?
Is that you testifying
now, what I'm
you're
trying
doing
to
in
tell
West
you is,
Bengal?
I want to reply to the gentleman there. You see, Mamata Banerjee, the Honorable Chief Minister of West Bengal, herself visited the spot. She declared some kind of help to the families, and she is ordered a 10-day drive to pick up all criminals and all weapons. What has the Uttar Pradesh government and Chief Minister done after the son of an central minister? He drove over the farmers' peaceful rally and killed people, killed farmers. Young boy was also killed, but this person was not, after being arrested, was let loose before the elections to go and threaten the Dalits. What has happened?
Ma'am, okay, there are so many different directions this conversation is going into. First of all, that man was in jail. Ashish Mishra was in jail. He was let out on bail. But we are talking about.
They should also.
But just a second. We are now engaging in whataboutery. I have a more specific question. Narhari Mahato is pinned to the ground. Are you saying that this is self-defense? An MLA of the BJP is kicked to the ground. They say we wanted a statement by the Chief Minister. Is this self-defense? Is this disciplining? Or is this dictatorship?
See, murderous attempts by which the nose is broken of Ashit Majumdar. You can see him bleeding, and he had to be stitched and the fracture had to be repaired.
But he is saying that Suvendu Adhikari attacked him. Why is Narhari Mahato being kicked? Mr. Majumdar himself said that Suvendu Adhikari attacked me. Why is Narhari Mahato being kicked to the ground?
Suvendu Adhikari was accompanied by the Chief Whip also, and also by this Mr. Mahato. So you can have a look at the videos clipping also without any provocation.
So
they wanted a discussion.
Mr. Mahato was pinned to the ground. This is an action in self-defense where an MLA is pinning another MLA to the ground, kicking him, and that is an action in self-defense.
They are trying to create unrest in West Bengal.
Kakoliji, I have great respect for you. Kakoliji, I have great respect for you, and let's talk one at a time. You know, unfortunately for your party, ma'am, this has become a culture of violence. And I'll tell you another example. Your mouthpiece, Jago Bangla, you have threatened no less than the governor, saying that there will be dire consequences if he continues to raise his voice against what is happening within the state of West Bengal. This is the level to which you all go. This is the threats that you give even to the governor's post and position. And today you have unleashed the same violence that we see that is there in every part of West Bengal. And difference between West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh, madam, the difference between West Bengal and Uttar Pradesh is that in West Bengal, crude bombs are discovered, illegal weapons are discovered and recovered. In the other hand, in Uttar Pradesh, the criminals, they
Yeah,
surrender
BJP
in front of the
cadres are
police.
keeping it.
This is the difference.
BJP
This
is
is the
keeping
difference
it.
that in West Bengal police, the courts have
BJP
no
is keeping
faith,
it.
and therefore they transfer the matter to
Suvendu
the
Adhikari is
CBI,
keeping the
saying that
bomb.
this SIT cannot be relied upon. Who was the SIT that you had appointed in Birbhum matter? What was the antecedents of those people? They were tainted people. They had murder charges against them. They were people who had not even investigated cases related to your own TMC MLA. These are the kinds of people you found in your SIT. And the question, fundamental question is that today, if anybody wants to raise their voice, if it's a common man or whether it is the MLA, they are threatened with violence, including in the assembly. This is the level to which the state has gone. A state which was of Rabindranath Tagore, the state which was of Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, you have reduced it to the state of Mamata Banerjee. You have become carbon copy of CPM and CPIM, where the left violence we have seen for 34 long years, you have replicated that violence inside the assembly.
Why don't you look at the rest of the country where
Madam, this whataboutery doesn't work. You are in charge of West Bengal.
At least
You are in charge of the
people-
proceedings in the House. You answer about West Bengal. We'll discuss
People
about Uttar
get
Pradesh
justice
if you
in
want at
West Bengal.
10:30.
People
But
get
tell me, why
justice.
is this happening in West Bengal? This is happening in West Bengal. Tell me one case out of the 300 people of BJP that were killed
People
that
get
you have given
justice in
justice.
West
One
Bengal.
case. Dulal Kumar. Trilochan Mahato. I'm asking you specific questions.
Minister
There were
has-
15,000
Chief
incidences
Minister
of violence
personally
in the
visit
post-poll
these
violence
places.
cases. And what did
That
the court
doesn't
say?
happen
That
in the
you did
states
not
ruled
even
by
probe a
BJP.
single one of them. Please, madam, I am asking you as a citizen of this country, forget BJP, Congress,
See,
everything else.
the
I am asking you as a
different
citizen
states
of this
ruled by
country,
BJP.
why
There
are
is
you
no
reducing
crime
the
there.
state, such a beautiful state which has the ideals of Rabindranath Tagore, into a state that was governed by the left only with the iron hand of blood? Why have you reduced it to that today? And including in the assembly? Give me the answer for that. Stop your whataboutery.
I am asking you as a lady, I am asking you as a woman of this country, why do you let things like Unnao and Hathras
Madam,
happen and not
if you
take
want an
any
answer
action
for that,
against
Unnao, the
criminals?
BJP has won. They
Let
did not
them
fall
go
for your
scot-free.
propaganda.
As
Hathras,
a
the
lady,
BJP
I am
has won. They
asking,
did not fall
why
for your propaganda.
do you let these things
Lakhimpur
happen?
BJP has won.
Why does gang
People
rape
have
happen in
endorsed what
Uttar
we have
Pradesh?
done, actions we've taken. Now I'm asking you with folded hands. You are in charge
you
of law
were
and order.
scaring
The
people.
court, time
You
and
were
again, has no
threatening the
faith in your
Dalits.
police. It has no
You
faith in your
were
administration.
threatening the Dalits.
Okay,
you
know,
let
I
loose Tenny.
will
You
differ
let
on that.
loose Tenny
That
who went and
a
threatened
win
the Dalits.
at the hustings does not necessarily legitimize an action, because Mamata Banerjee can give the same argument saying, I have been brought in with a windfall mandate, but that in itself still does not endorse political violence. That being said, legal action has to be taken. Those who are responsible should be in jail. My question though is, since you're talking about Unnao and Hathras, Shikha Chatterjee, an MLA of the BJP, a lady, is on your screen right now, Ms. Dasidar, and she is saying that I was roughed up by members of the TMC. My simpler question to you is, fine, you are saying BJP brought violence into the assembly, 5 of theirs has been suspended. How many TMC suspended for beating up Shikha Chatterjee? How many of the TMC suspended for pinning Narhari Mahato to the ground? Why no action against Shaukat Molla? Let there be action against both. You are agreeing that they did engage in self-defense, but violent means inside the assembly cannot be endorsed. Why is no action taken against those?
They beat up the secretariat lady staff. They started beating the lady staffs. They beating up the, they were trying to take away the from the marshal's hand the baton. They were trying to pull it away. They were creating unrest. They beat up.
Do you have any proof of this? These are claims being made by her. She is obviously an interested party. Why should her claims be taken as a
hooligan. The leader of
gospel
the party
of truth?
is a hooligan there.
Why should we take what you're saying as a gospel of truth? You're not even in the part of that assembly.
Ma'am, and with due respect, the images on the screen seem to suggest something else. Where we have the images, it is Shaukat Molla who is pushing people. Where we see images, there is Narhari Mahato who is on the ground. And yet you have no answer for the question. Fine, you suspend members of the BJP.
And
but will you take action? Will there be action taken? Will
you
there
can't
be?
see the MLA. I am so sorry. Then you please get your eyes checked. If you can't see
Ma'am, I am saying, if you have decided, the speaker has decided to suspend MLAs of the BJP for their unruly behavior, would you also not suggest the same action against members of your party? Obviously, if there are MLAs of the BJP, members of the BJP who are bloody and wounded, somebody has attacked them. Take action against those people as well. Suspend BJP.
None of them were bloodied and wounded.
None of them.
Only
Shehzad.
No, madam, by the way, let me inform you, Shikha Chatterjee, Chandana Bauri, Narhari Mahato, right now as we speak, all of them are in hospital, madam. They are in hospital. Are they not injured? They've just gone to hospital without any injury. There are 7 of our MLAs who are in hospital right now. Ma'am, you cannot keep talking over me. I heard you out. Kakuli ji, I heard you out. I have respect for you, but that doesn't mean that you take my respect as a sign of weakness. Now I'm asking you a couple of questions. You said the same thing when the Birbhum massacre happened. Your leader came out and said it was a television set that exploded. You all have a habit of lying. Mr. Anubrata Mondal said this. What action have you taken against him? Can you please tell me? Why should I believe you if you have so much proof that our MLAs were indulging in this? Put out the CCTV footage. Why don't you put out the CCTV footage and show that our MLAs were beating up somebody? And even if they were beating up somebody, does that give you a right to beat up somebody who was not doing violence? Does that give you a right to kick Mr. Narhari?
So how?
No. Does that give you a right? Is the right to self-defense in an assembly the right to go and catch any other MLA and start beating him up, kicking him and pinning him to the ground? What kind of law have you studied? Are you a lawmaker, madam?
And they have
Are you justifying an eye for an eye?
The Secretariat.
Even if there was an eye that was taken in the first place, why don't you submit the proof? And are you telling me that these 7 MLAs who've gone to hospital have not been injured by any of your MLAs? Then where is the fairness by the speaker and the actions taken by him?
Suvendu Adhikari has been trying to disrupt the assembly session right from day one.
Why don't you just allow for a discussion to take place on Birbhum? Why don't you just allow a discussion to take place on Birbhum? You should have then obviated this by allowing a discussion. If this was our intention to disrupt the house, you should have allowed for a discussion. You have nothing to hide, right?
Final question, Ms. Dastidar. In the interest of transparency, in the interest of justice, since you've taken action, do you in principle agree there should be a discussion on what happened in Birbhum inside the West Bengal Assembly? The victims deserve this.
The Honorable Chief Minister was absolutely open in her gestures. She went and visited and openly said, within 10 days...
Ma'am, do you think there should be a discussion?
All arms should be picked
in the interest of transparency, in the interest of your workers, whose families were charred alive, should there be a discussion?
Now, how does BJP... You tell me one thing. Hold one minute. You answer me one question. That how does
you
the BJP account for their MLAs preventing the Honorable Rajyapal from giving out his lecture? They went on shouting slogans so that he couldn't read this. So they are the hooligans. They prevented the Rajyapal from reading out the inaugural speech.
Okay, it's nice that you actually refer to him as Honorable Rajyapal, because in the recent past, a member of parliament of yours has called the same Rajyapal Uncle Ji. But anyway, last comment from you.
You know, it's so sad that under Mamata Banerjee, Ma Mati Manush today has translated into murder, mayhem and massacre, and the worst and the most violent form is seen in the assembly. That's what West Bengal has been reduced to under Mamata Banerjee.
All right, we will leave it at that. Let's just hope that in the interest of justice and transparency, like we've saying, irrespective of what happens by way of politics, there is a discussion so that the facts and the truth can be out there to the people who've lost 9 members. Thanks very much, Kakuli Ghosh Dastidar, Shehzad Poonawalla, for joining.